So, last night when I was recording, I was very nervous. I was very worried and scared and everything because I was about to talk to my parents, and I'm still a little in shock. It's the next morning, it's 7 something a.m. I honestly didn't sleep a whole lot. I've been up for a while. Um, my therapist was wrong. My mom did not know what it was about, but she might as well have. She was, completely accepting, completely fine with it. She said she wasn't shocked at all, was very, reassuring and reiterated over and over that I was, her child. She didn't care whether I was a boy or a girl, and that our relationship wouldn't change, and that she loved me. She even joked that she wants me to bring the girls and come live with them, you know, um, because she misses us so much. From living here in New York instead of living near them like I used to live close to them. Um, she was very, very open about it, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a little informed on this. I watched a thing about jazz and uh, the girl." I was like, "Well, I'm not quite the same as that, but I tried to explain the medical things. I showed them this, and they were very impressed. They were very fascinated. My dad, my dad was struggling with it, but he didn't. He'd get up and pace sometimes. Sometimes he'd close his eyes while he was listening, but he kept listening. And I sent them some medical um, video-ness. I basically, instead of starting out with a video, I asked them, I have videos. Do you want to see something, or do you just want to start talking? And they said they wanted to go ahead and start talking and watch a video later. So we did watch part of the 2 hour medical video that explains how doctors treat transgender people, and all the studies about transgender people for the United States of America and stuff like that for 2019, and stuff from a like doctor conference or whatever. Anyway, it's this video of this doctor teaching other doctors about it, and um, my dad was actually watching it, and I kept thinking, should I tell him to pause? But after, they were talking about why people become transgender medically, reasons for becoming transgender and stuff. And my parents were like, oh, wow, that's so interesting. Isn't that amazing? And stuff. And then the doctor started going into, so what do you do about it? Well, here's what I do every day. Here's, hormones. And then he brought up surgery. And my dad paused it, and he said, so is this what you would do? You would do this. And I said, yeah, Dad, probably maybe several months from now, um, the recommendation for my gender dysphoria is to medically transition. Um, and I could see he was very overwhelmed, but he just kept saying, I'm processing, I'm processing. He didn't say, yeah, this is too much, or yeah, no, this isn't going to work out, or yeah, no one in the family is going to believe this bullshit. He actually said, this makes sense, but I'm processing. That was the closest thing to acceptance, really. That, and I gave some examples from growing up about stuff. I explained, I don't know if he knew all the ways that my birth mother aggressively punished me for masculinity. My mom and dad both said they didn't care whether I dressed like a boy or a girl. My mom was sad that I had thought her wanting me to grow my hair out had anything to do with her wanting me to be more girly. Um, they were like, yeah, my dad was like, yeah, your mom wants me to grow my hair out longer. She likes sticking her fingers in curly hair and it to be a little longer. So whenever she sees someone with short hair, she's like, oh, it's such a waste. I want to run my fingers through their curls. Um, apparently, my mom was really sad that I'd ever felt sad about that. And, I said I like rainbows, and the first thing that came out of her mouth was, and fairies? And I was like, no, actually, I like fantasy. And I told her this, the thing about, over the years people had just given me fairies and fairies and fairies. And she was like, oh, I'm so glad you told me this. Because I think she said something about that. She saw a cute little rainbow unicorn fairy thing or something, and she had thought about maybe getting it for me. And I was just like, and she was like, this is good information. I was like, yeah, I like unicorns, but I like the masculine unicorns. And my dad was like, yeah, she doesn't want ones with a horn that droops like this. She wants ones that horns are erect. And my mom was like, so they didn't start using he, him pronouns, but they were open to the idea that if I did start medically transitioning, that I would be a son and not a daughter. Um, which again, I'm in shock. Like somehow I tried so hard not to dissociate through the whole thing. It was like a 2 hour long conversation, and I somehow stayed calm. I didn't like freak out. Um, I mean, some of the conversation was just us like talking and being family. Especially with my mom. My dad spilled popcorn on the floor. Oh no. Oh, your dad was talking to Marguerite and he needs a massage and blah, blah, blah. Like, just normal talk. And I think that helped. And it helped, you know, I think that I do naturally grow body hair and I am actually growing a little. Like, it's getting decently long. Like, I got some long hairs going on here. Um, I think that helped them. I mean, I said, I've always been a tomboy, and, like my dad wasn't denying anything or arguing, and I think, I think I was so scared that, that I would say that my mother beat me for, certain instances of expressing masculinity that I was giving them examples of, that I was scared that my dad would be like, well, obviously she didn't beat you enough or something, like, obviously you weren't punished enough for it because here you are considering it or something. And he wasn't like that at all. He looked upset that she had done that. Um, Weirdly, almost right after I made the first recording, my dad called me to let me know that mom was going to get home later than she had thought she would. And we just talked for like, 50, 45 minutes, my dad and me, about, you know, random stuff and everything. And I think that helped because I was trying not to say, hey, I'm probably transgender. I'm still processing it, but this is a, pretty high probability here. Um, I was trying not to say that. So we just ended up talking about all kinds of stuff. I mean, I think that helped. I will say there are a couple of things that were interesting. Um, you know, my parents have never called me Ray. They've always called me. Ray is short for. Anyway, I told them I could just go with Rain and just keep my name all the same except for change my first name to be where you could still shorten it to Ray and it'd be more convenient for people. And my dad went to that name. He didn't like it. Um, my mom was like, well, if that's what you want. And I was like, well, I almost mentioned it. I actually like another name a lot more. I call myself that name in my head. Um, and Rain is a unisex name. It's Rayne. It's, from like the Latin and Israeli and stuff. It's deviated from Reina, which is more of a girl side, but from like Scandinavian culture and things, it's more deviated from Ragnar, which is a boy origin. So it's a very unisex name. It's a very, I thought, make people comfortable name, but they didn't seem to like it. Um, I can't name myself what my father would have named me when I was a baby because he was going to name me family names and he put them all on my brother who's 1 year younger than me. So all those names are taken. Um, I I don't know if I should push further when I know that they're already processing. Um, but I thought about mentioning today that the other name that I actually like um, a lot. That I've called myself that name for years and years inside my head. Um, but it's very different than my birth name, and everyone would have to learn this new name instead of just calling me Ray, but changing the spelling a little. Um, but yeah, I don't I don't know that I actually want to be called Ray. Um, and my mom was very don't do things that make other people comfortable. You know, I mean I brought up that I didn't think anyone on my father's side of the family, and it's massive. It's a massive family, would accept it or anything. And she said, yeah, but when you came out as a lesbian, you faced a lot of adversity already with that. Don't worry about them. My mom was very. I love my mom. She also said she did not envy me. She dreaded it for me. My birth mother finding out. She was very compassionate about that. She agreed with me that the next person I should tell is my sibling I'm closest with. She agreed with me which siblings would care and which siblings wouldn't care for the most part. Um, she said go ahead and start telling them. So, I explained to them medical stuff, like that was recommended. I told them what I was diagnosed with and what I wasn't. Um, what had been suggested that I might have, but that I hadn't been tested. I told them, I'm scared and that I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to, you know, come to terms with things. I was in so much shock, but the first thing that started to come through once the shock started to come down a little bit was relief and that I could actually do this. I think up until telling my parents, it was just sort of like this pipe dream thing. It was just sort of this like, oh, well, is that really realistic? Oh, you're gonna turn into a dude and get happy? Like, this sounds fake. And I think it's settling in that this could be real. Like, that's so strange to me. And my parents wanted to know things, and I did tell them stuff, and I said, I don't know if you want to know this, and they didn't shirk at it at all. I mean, I told them about my bottom dysphoria. I told them that I could feel a penis down there. I told them that I've known that I had issues with my genitalia almost as far back as I can remember. I didn't tell them 3, but I can remember since I was 3. Like I told them I would have bottom growth and I would grow a baby penis and it would be a little micro one. And my dad was just like, you know, but he made jokes. And I told him, that could be, you know, reshaped into a more normal penis and stuff. And my dad was like, well, man, if you can get your penis reshaped, I'd want a 12-inch porno dick. And I was like, and my mom was just like, Gordon. That's my dad's name. And that's how she says it. She's like, Gordon. And he was like, what? I would. And that's exactly what I want. She's like, oh, I know that's what you'd want. And I was like, well, I don't want a porno dick. Want I just want one that's the same size as what I already can phantom limb syndrome feel there. And my dad was very amazed about all that. And he said he was so sorry about not taking us all to do stuff and just only taking my brothers. He was like, if I would have known that you wanted to go shooting clay pigeons with us, I would have taken you. If I would have known that you wanted to do all this stuff, I would have taken you. I didn't know. And that meant a lot to me. I mean, it just, it's starting to dawn on me. I could literally just live every day exactly like I do, except my body's actually, like, not something to be afraid about or upset about or in pain about. I, I could literally just have life as a man. Like, I don't really care about almost anyone's opinion of me, but I do care about my parents' opinion of me, and I think I went into it remembering how bad everything was when I came out as a lesbian when I was 19. My dad had such a difficult time with it, and I could see he was overwhelmed with this, but at the same time, he was like, it's reasonable, but it's a lot, you know? And that was huge. That was significant. I think I'm still a lot in shock. And now I get to do all the coming out to everybody else. And it just feels like, let's just do it. Let's get it done. I'm not actually scared of that or intimidated by that. I'm a little sad. My 2 youngest siblings are still my birth mother's level of religious extremes, and probably will have very big issues with it, and even my mom thought that. My baby sister, for instance, just linked me some conspiracy theory video thing, and I was like, so this has been debunked multiple times, but here's a list of everything that's not right with this video. And I mean, you can go look at sources, you can go look it up. And I basically told her, don't have a single or only 2 sources of information. Don't take someone's opinion as what you should believe. Know what you believe. And she said that apparently that made her like cry. I told her democracy didn't mean that someone's ignorance equaled someone else's educated knowledge. And that freedom of speech didn't mean you should parrot information without knowing why you believe what you believe. And she cried because she thought I was disappointed in her. I was like, no, it's not that I'm disappointed in you. I just want you to know yourself. She's a lot younger than me, and I wish somehow that there was some way for her to know herself better and not wait until I as old as I am to try to figure stuff out, you know. And I told her, I mean, she's my baby sister. I'm more protective over her than almost anyone in the world, and I just want to protect her. Um, it's not that I'm disappointed in her at all. Sorry if you can hear my spouse snoring. My dad also, for some reason, was into the conspiracy theory thing a little bit, and I was like, Dad, you're my male role model. Be an honorable and good man who puts good into the world. Don't. He was like, oh, I'm just making stuff up. I just like to get people riled up and thinking outside the box. I don't actually believe none of this crap. And I'm like, yeah, but spreading it automatically is not kind. And he's like, I know, but it was funny. I was like, I guess I made him think outside the box. Maybe that's why he was as tolerant as he was because we had just had that conversation. I told my parents right now I'm just letting my body do what it feels like doing naturally, seeing, what makes it happy and stuff, and that I've been going over this for months, and it will probably still be months before I take some sort of action about it, medically. And that I was trying to go slow and not just dive bomb into it, and they seem to respect all of that. I told my parents I was you know, not shaving stuff anymore, and they knew I always took super long showers my whole life because I was shaving everything. So I think my mom especially was impressed with that. I think they were amazed that I can grow facial hair. I think they were more accepting of what I was saying because I can grow facial hair. Weirdly, it was like, yeah, it what you're saying makes sense to me because I can see it happening, I guess. I I I mean, they always know I've tried to keep a lot of personal information from them about my life and about like being a lesbian for so long, or my androgyny, and that whatever they've been uncomfortable with even slightly me mentioning, I just shut down and don't tell them anything about it at all. And this was a big deal for me to talk to them this openly, and it was a big deal for them to react the way they did. I told my parents I was trying not to intentionally raise my voice to make people more comfortable. Like, I used to try to go and try to sound more girly and stuff, and my voice is actually naturally decently deep. And I told them I'm just letting it be deep. And my mom got me to laugh once in the conversation, and I did a proper belly laugh, and I had this deep, rumbly laugh. And she said, oh, I like your laugh. And I just want to be like, oh, that's so, like, meaningful. Like, that was touching. She's like, you have such a good laugh. Because I've faked laughing my whole life. Trying to sound more, like, lighthearted or whatever and stuff. And, yeah. So today I have to long distance drive and take take care of a bunch of chores and crap, but also I might literally just start coming out to siblings and stuff. I feel like I can just come out to everyone. Like, let's get her done. I've come out to my best friend and I've come out to my parents. I mean, everyone else is, you know, important, but at the same time, like, I'm not afraid. And I was afraid about my parents. And I told them that I'm doing therapy for myself. I don't want to transition and not be more okay with myself mentally and stuff, and they seem to respect that and think that was a good plan. You know, I said I'm trying to deal with my own misconceptions about, you know, gender and men and stuff like that from how I was raised. I'm trying to deal with fear, you know, and never feeling safe. I'm trying to deal with, you know, doing everything for everyone around me all the time, even if it is detrimental to me, and tiptoeing around making people uncomfortable or not, and, you know, things like that and stuff. And my mom was all for it. She was like, this is all good things that you should do. Um, I told them I have a male brain and a female body, and they accepted that. And I didn't expect that they would be able to accept that. And I told them I am diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I do have that. Um, and that doesn't mean for sure I have everything else that comes with that, but you know, probably. And I told them that I mean I would need to take testosterone for the rest of my life. The same way my spouse, one of her many health issues is diabetes, and I said her body doesn't produce enough insulin, so I have to give her insulin every day. I would need testosterone because my body doesn't produce enough of it. Although I do have a little more than the average woman, I don't have enough to be at the same levels as a man. And so I would have to have testosterone for the rest of my life to make up for the fact that I don't produce enough. Or else I could get things like, you know, osteoporosis and stuff from hormone imbalances and stuff. And they were like, okay, that makes sense. And I'm just like, shock. Like, the girls were all ready to be super supportive, and I mean, they were supportive, you know, giving me hugs and everything. And, you know, being like, wow, that went so well, you know, and stuff. It's just, I can't believe it. I feel like I dreamed the whole thing or something. Sometimes my father's conservative in his views and stuff, but he tries his hardest to be a good dad. And again, I don't know if maybe that was just for now, and then he'll talk to my grandmother and it will change. I did bring up my grandmother, and he didn't say much about that, so there is that still. But even if for some reason my grandmother puts her foot down, because she is the matriarch of the family, and my dad goes with what she says, at least his initial reaction was not like his initial reaction to when I came out as a lesbian. I just, I can't believe how well he took this. Comparatively, it's just mind blowing. And I don't know, maybe it will help my relationship with my father. My my mom, I said, yeah, it turns out I'm not a lesbian. It's kind of depressing because I got so much out of, that community and being around lesbians. And I love women. Um, I really, really do. I love women. But I don't want to be a woman. And I want more, like, male mentors. And, like, I've always been the big brother. I want a big brother. And I have some big brothers, but not close like that. I would like that. And, my mom thought that was good and stuff. And I was just like, yeah, but it turns out I'm just a straight white dude and boring. And she laughed so hard. She said, you could never be boring. So, which is weird because I'm a recluse who spends most of her time not out doing exciting things or whatever, but not boring. I, I could actually do this. Also, it still is extremely difficult to fathom that I could actually live a life where I was happy and where I wasn't scared of looking at myself, where I wasn't constantly dissociating from looking at myself, where I would just focus in on one single body part so that I wouldn't look at all the rest, where I'm not chronically depressed every day. I mean, I told my parents really personal things like sexual function things and stuff, not in grand detail or whatever, but talked about a penis, like I could just be sitting here but with pecs and a penis and an Adam's apple. That would be awesome to have an Adam's apple. Um, Maybe a little more fa- facial hair, like a beard. Like my voice might be a little deeper than it already is, and I would be like, that would be cool. I I have not been tested for it or diagnosed with it because I am scared of doctors. I That's a whole other thing that I'm trying not to think about, is that in order to even medically transition, I'm gonna have to see doctors, and I'm scared of doctors. I actually have iatrophobia. Um, Sorry, someone's rolling over in the bed. Um, but I also have all the markers for possibly having congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which pretty much almost every woman who has that, um, especially uncommon. There's two kinds. There's common and uncommon and stuff, but almost every woman who has that ends up attracted to other women, and a lot of them end up being transgender. Um, so if I did have that, it would be like very, very straightforward what needs to be done. But yeah, I have like all these markers for it. I check almost literally every single box for it. But I don't get tested for stuff. I don't like doctors. I'm a completely different person around doctors than than the rest of the time. Usually I'm very like decently calm and methodical, and put me in a room with the doctor and I just panic. Sheer panic. So that's great. My parents were curious how long it would take to transition. I was like, probably at least 2 to 5 years, quite possibly longer. And they were, you know, very, very, like, I kept being like, do you guys have questions? And they were like, oh, we can look it up. We've looked stuff up before. We can do it. I was like, do you need me to send you links to stuff? And my mom was like, oh, I can find links to stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Um, I thought it was interesting. One of the things the doctor said in the video, where the doctor was teaching the other doctors about transgender stuff and everything, which if I ever post this video, I'll put a link to that in the description. But basically, in it, he was explaining studies about, you know, transgender stuff and everything. And he was like, I follow lots of different things on Reddit, and I follow a channel that's all dedicated to Trumpsters just to know what they're saying and thinking. And I do that. I have a lot of family members who are very um, different thinking than I am, and extremely conservative and not into the world progressing forward and us taking better care of each other and the world. And they're very against that, they like vehemently. And I leave them there not just because they're my family, but I want to know what they're thinking. Like, I don't want to be isolated with only an echo chamber of my own beliefs. It it reinforces how much I believe what I believe, to see sometimes these things and be like, God, that is so completely different than how I feel. And he was saying how a lot of the people in that Reddit, the doctor he was saying they like to cite this study, and he was like, that's a crap study. It was done on like almost no one for almost no amount of time, and it was completely like mishandled and stuff. He said, you want a good study? Here's the good study. Over 50 years or whatever of them doing this on like 800 people. It was something like that. It was a big number, you know, compared to the other study, which was like 12 or 8, or I don't remember the numbers. Anyway, the point is, if you ever watch the video, you can see for yourselves. And again, the video's from 2019, so but yeah, he was like, this study is actually like way like good, and here's the truth about things and stuff. And I could see my dad, it dawning on him that he would have to like actually, when he looks it up, pay attention to what he was looking up. um I don't know, I feel like my dad, that was a lot for him to handle. He probably cried afterwards, probably from distress about me having gone through so much distress in my life. And he always has felt like he was a bad father because he couldn't get us out of that. And I've told him multiple times I don't blame him at all. Um, and then I think he'll cry because he's overwhelmed and it's a lot. And you know, I think my mom's reaction was like, I mean, who wouldn't want to come out to your mom saying over and over again, well, you're my child and I love you. Like, perfect mom reaction. Like, my stepmom has always made every effort to make up for all the rejection and physical harm and mental harm and emotional harm that my birth mother has caused me. I appreciate it, and I could do this. I mean, let's just come out to everybody. Let's just do it. Let's pick a name and start making it happen or something. I don't know. I don't know. I've felt very very like I wanted to be really slow about this, and I'm feeling. I guess I'm starting to feel a high note instead of all these low notes. And obviously, I'm not going to just do that because I'm me. And let's be honest, a feeling that I feel right now is not going to determine my actions. Um, I'm still going to go slow. In reality, it's still going to be at least a couple more months. I mean, let's be honest, it's me. But at the same time, that's how I feel. I feel like I'm gonna. I feel like this weekend I'll come out to my siblings, come out to the guild, come out to my aunts and uncles and stuff, and call it good. I don't need to come out to every single person on the planet, but all the people who have any involvement in my life. Yeah. I'm 99% probably transgender man. And in the future, I will probably medically transition, and that could actually be a reality. Like, it's not just something that, oh, wouldn't that be. I think I'm still partially in shock. I'm still, like, absorbing it. I keep saying that, but that's how I feel. I could do this. Like, I could actually have that. Like, yeah,